So in this video for today, I wanted to talk to you about theophoric names and the legacy of El. While the term theophoric comes from the Greek word theos, meaning God, and pharaoh, meaning to bear or to carry, the theophoric name here is referring to any name that incorporates the name of a deity, often as an invocation of divine protection, blessing, or affiliation. In ancient Semitic cultures, particularly among the Israelites, theophoric names containing El were deeply common, signifying a deep connection to the divine. So let's go into the meaning behind theophoric names. Many biblical figures have names that include El or El, each carrying specific meanings tied to faith, divine attributes, or a personal relationship with God. Some notable examples include Michael, who is like God; Gabriel, God is my strength; Daniel, God is my judge; Samuel, heard by God or name of God; Elijah, my God is Yahweh; Ezekiel, God strengthens; Emmanuel, God is with us. These names were not just identifiers, but they held spiritual significance. They reflected the religious beliefs of their bearers' families and communities. Parents naming their children with El were essentially invoking God's presence in the child's life, often as a form of prayer or hope for divine protection. Let's look at some theophoric names in other cultures, moving away from El. The practice of incorporating a deity's name into personal names was not exclusive to the Israelites. In Mesopotamian as well as Canaanite traditions, names often included names of gods such as Baal, Marduk, or Hadad. For example, Ishbaal, man of Baal; Hannibal, grace of Baal, from Carthaginian culture; Baalzebub, that's the demon lord of the flies. However, as Israelite monotheism developed, names referencing non-Israelite gods were often changed. For example, Ishbaal, man of Baal, became Ishbosheth, man of shame, in later biblical texts, reflecting the rejection of Canaanite deities. Theophoric names remain one of the most powerful linguistic links between ancient religious practices and modern language, with many of these names still in widespread use today. So now let's also talk about the evolution of El in religious context and its influence on modern culture, particularly modern American culture. As I mentioned before, the term El holds profound significance across various Semitic languages and cultures, serving both as a general term for deity as well as a specific name for a supreme god. Its evolution from ancient religious practices to contemporary culture, including its subtle imprint on modern narratives like that of the Superman comics, showcases its enduring legacy. El in the ancient religions. In the ancient Near East, El was recognized as the chief deity among the Canaanites and other Semitic peoples. He was often depicted as the father of the gods and humanity, embodying attributes of creation and kingship. Texts from Ugarit describe El as the husband of the goddess Asherah and the progenitor of gods like Baal, Yam, and Mat. We transition over from El to Elohim in Judaism. As monotheism emerged within ancient Israel, the concept of El underwent serious transformation. The plural form Elohim became a predominant designation for the singular God of Israel, reflecting a shift away from polytheistic traditions to a monotheistic framework. This linguistic evolution signifies the amalgamation of earlier deities into a singular, all-encompassing deity. However, I've also mentioned in other videos that Elohim with the small e is used to refer to princes, rulers, and judges in the human world. Now, I mentioned also that we have names like Michael, who is like God; Gabriel, God is my strength; Daniel, God is my judge; and Samuel, heard by God. And these incorporate the term El, using a deep-seated tradition of invoking the divine in personal identities. But now I want to talk to you about modern culture in terms of El and the creation of Superman. The creators of Superman, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, were Jewish immigrants who infused their character with elements from their Jewish cultural heritage. The name Kal-El which is a Kryptonian name, can be interpreted in Hebrew as voice of God, with El devoting divinity. Thus, Superman's story parallels that of Moses, both sent away as infants to ensure their survival, highlighting themes of deliverance and hope. When we think about it in total, the term El has traversed a remarkable journey from ancient deity to a symbol embedded in modern day storytelling. Its presence in religious texts, personal names, and cultural icons like Superman illustrates its enduring impact on human consciousness and the narratives that we happen to construct. In other words, in our own way, when we refer to characters like Superman, which in German might be Ubermensch, right? The all knowing Mensch, or all powerful Mensch, then we start to see that we create these parallels to God himself or herself, depending on what your understanding or belief of God is, right? Because each of us is entitled to our own personal conscience as to what we believe the divine is all about. Nonetheless, the point that I'm trying to raise with all of this is why often I've created previous videos talking about the Elohim, because the Elohim in many Jewish texts refers to the supreme, most high, singular God, but the Elohim with the small e can often refer to human beings who are given certain degrees of power in the human realm because of the fact that their mission is sacred. When you are appointed a judge, when you are appointed a prince or a ruler or a potentate, then you are considered within certain biblical texts to be someone who is blessed by the Most High God to have a position of great responsibility, one that you're going to be held accountable to. In other words, the last thing that the Most High God would ever want is for someone to be given human power and then to abuse that power, to abuse the children of God, the creations of God, by misusing that power. So, as a result, keep in mind that with great power comes great responsibility. Those who are entrusted with, say, like judges who uphold the law, or even presidents who are supposed to be an executive enforcing the law, and legislatures where these are people who make the law. When you betray that purpose, when you are abusing that power, you are answerable to God or the divine, whatever your perception of the divine may be, because of the fact that the power itself is believed to have sprouted from some sort of divine authority. In fact, you'll find in many different cultures, it doesn't necessarily have to be confined to a Jewish culture or a Christian culture. Many cultures across the world, what you will find is that the right to be a leader over others comes with a divine blessing, but that divine blessing can be lost if those individuals betray their sacred mission.